Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought that I would talk about this video that I found very particularly interesting. And this video is going to be by the channel known as Blue Blood Sports TV. And let me give Blue Blood Sports TV some credit here because I review a lot of channels on this channel, at least here and there. Overall, especially the channels that I tend to find are a little bit more biased or maybe all in all, delusional or try to spread certain false narratives or narratives overall that benefit them. And I do think that maybe Blue Blood Sports TV, just like a lot of the other channels, he may spread certain narratives here and there. But what I will say is this: Blue Blood Sports TV, I do find to be a hell of a lot more logical and objective than that of other channels. So I will give him that certain amount of credit. But the reason why I thought I would review this video is because I found this conversation particularly interesting. And this is going to be about the fighter known as Teofimo Lopez. And when it comes down to it, Teofimo Lopez, he is going to have a lot of pressure on him within his next few fights, and it's going to be very, very interesting overall to see who he faces next. Now, apparently, from what I'm hearing, at least from Mr. Blue Blood Sports TV, there is a possibility that maybe he could face the Jose Pedraza versus Jose Ramirez winner, which I expect to be Jose Ramirez in that fight because Jose Pedraza, even though he's a decent fighter, I don't know if he necessarily has a great skills. I also don't think that he has the athleticism or the skills of a Jose Ramirez, but we'll see what happens. That's a very interesting fight. Also, another Mexico versus Puerto Rico type of matchup, so that's very, very interesting as well. But another rumor that I am hearing is that Mr. Teofimo Lopez, he also could potentially face another 140-pounder by the name of Mr. Montana Love. And that is an extremely dangerous fight for Mr. Teofimo Lopez, in my opinion. But the biggest question about Teofimo Lopez is this: after that upset loss to Mr. George Kambosos, now a certain amount of people, they may say, well, upset, I picked George Kambosos to win, or it wasn't really that big of an upset. What I'll say is this, because I'm not going to pretend like I'm some sort of Nostradamus or that I get every single prediction right or all this other stuff. I'm not going to pretend overall, unlike I'm anything like that. We all get our predictions right and, or certain predictions right, certain predictions wrong. And when it came to Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos, I did predict Mr. Teofimo Lopez to win because I thought that he would just be a little bit too strong, a little bit too big, and a little bit too good for that of a George Kambosos. However, what I will say is this: heading into that fight, I think I favored Teofimo Lopez probably either 60-40 or 70-30. Meaning what? That George Kambosos, in my opinion, he surprised me a little, but it wasn't shocking. I think I think overall the one that shocked me the most this year and what should have been upset of the year in my opinion was that of a Mikey Garcia versus Sandor Martin. Because Sandor Martin basically came out of nowhere. I had literally never heard of this dude before when it came down to it. He already has 2 losses on his record. He has no notable wins in his career. Mikey Garcia went in there basically against a cherry pick, a complete tune-up, and he completely got outboxed in some of those rounds and lost by unanimous decision, I believe. That was, in my opinion, the biggest upset of the year. That was something, and I'm not a person that gets shocked very often because usually I have some sort of sense of realism in what I'm watching, and I can see maybe when an upset is going to happen. And I sort of seen, how George Kambosos could have potentially won this fight because Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos, they have such similar styles, and both of them are very decent athletes. But the Sandor Martin versus Mikey Garcia fight, I got to tell you, I was not expecting that at all. Maybe it was because Sandor Martin, I really hadn't heard of him, and I didn't really watch his highlights, but let me tell you what, he had a decent performance over Mikey Garcia. Do I think maybe, he underestimated him a bit? I think maybe, but at the end of the day, you still have to give Sandor Martin credit. But it is what it is. Anyways, the big question about Mr. Teofimo Lopez is, where does Teofimo Lopez go from here? I don't think that he's ever going to be able to go back down to the lightweight division or the 135-pound division because I just think that his stature is a little bit too big. I think that he's always really been a natural 140-pounder. I think that that's where he belongs. I think that he was heavily draining himself for the time that he was at 135 pounds. Of course, he was able to get a couple of very decent victories. He got a victory over Richard Comey, who I don't really think has ever been an A-grade fighter, but at least he was a B-grade fighter for that division. And Teofimo was able to knock him out within 2 rounds. Of course, when he had the IBF title. So that was the first title that he gained. And then, of course, he was able to get 2 titles off of Mr. Vasyl Lomachenko. And, of course, that was regarded as the biggest wins of his career, of course, hands down, and the most impressive victory at the time in all of boxing because, of course, Vasyl Lomachenko was regarded by many, including myself, as a debatable number 1 pound-for-pound fighter. And I think that Vasyl Lomachenko is a very, very great fighter. But you know who I would actually compare Vasyl Lomachenko to in terms of today? he basically is the modern day Bernard Hopkins. And I'm not saying that in terms of skills because, now certain people actually may disagree with me on this. They may say, oh, how can you even compare those two fighters? Well, the reason why I compare those two fighters is because both Bernard Hopkins and Vasyl Lomachenko, they were great pound-for-pound fighters for the day. They both were multiple weight division champions. But when they usually fought someone all in all, at least at this current moment in time, when they fought someone that was similar in size, or not even similar in size, but maybe a little bit bigger than them. Now, Bernard, he could naturally fit at light heavyweight overall because he was a middleweight fighter, but he had the stature and the reach and the height basically of a light heavyweight or a super middleweight. So he could, defeat guys there. But if he fought someone that was A grade, if he fought someone that was highly skilled, he usually was not going to win that fight. Now, will Vasyl Lomachenko end up the same way? We'll have to see. So far, he has shown me that in the Teofimo Lopez fight, and I understand that he was able to beat Guillermo Rigondeaux, Roy Linares, Gary Russell Jr., and Nicholas Walters. All that is understandable. But when it comes down to it, Vasyl Lomachenko to be on the all-time great level, in my opinion, he's going to have to prove himself against Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, and George Kambosos, at least within that division. Because I don't personally think that Lomachenko, I don't think he's going to be able to go up to 140. He's at least a natural 130-pounder. He has a 65-inch reach. He's not going to be able to compete anywhere above 135. It just is what it is. And there's even some very big threats at 130, like an Oscar Valdez and a Shakur Stevenson. So we'll see if Vasyl Lomachenko maybe later on is able to take those fights. Who knows, maybe a Leo Santa Cruz could even happen a little bit eventually later on down the line. But the big question about Teofimo Lopez, now that he's going to be at 140 pounds, not only who he is going to fight, but is Teofimo Lopez overall possibly going to be able to regain certain titles, or maybe not regain the 135-pound titles, of course, but what I mean by that is that will he potentially be able to win some titles at the 140-pound division? Will he be a serious threat to some of the top prospects there? Because this is a division where Teofimo Lopez, for the first time, he's going to be fighting fighters that they may not even be just as big as him. They may even be a little bit bigger than him in terms of reach, possibly maybe even in terms of stature. So the big question about Teofimo Lopez is this: can he beat those guys? Is he another very, very talented athlete, another very talented fighter that just got that one extraordinary win in his career, and then basically he was never able to do anything else in his career, like a Jermaine Taylor or Andrew Ruiz or Buster Douglas? Or is he a person all in all that will be able to come back in his career like a Bernard Hopkins or, someone else, within those lines? Is he another person all in all that, like I said, is he a Jermaine Taylor? Is he a person that's a one and done? Or is he a person all in all that, is he a fighter that will become one of the decently great fighters? We'll have to see. But anyways, Mr. Blue Blood Sports TV, he's going to talk about it, and I'm going to tune in.
YouTube, it's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we have some interesting news. As former unified lightweight world champion superstar boxer Teofimo Lopez, 16 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 12 wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'8" with a 69-inch arm reach. He could possibly be facing undefeated junior welterweight star boxer who's on a rise, Montana Love. Montana Too Pretty Love. 17 wins, no losses, 1 draw. 9 wins by way of knockout. He is 26 years of age. He's a southpaw.
Montana Love is not extremely experienced against high-grade competition. The best win of his career, in my opinion, is over a debatable C-class fighter and Ivan Baranchyk. Let me say this about Montana Love. I don't know why, but there has not been a lot of people talking about this kid. Montana Love is extraordinarily talented. Excellent footwork, excellent movement, excellent speed, excellent strength when it comes down to it. This kid is potentially dangerous. If there is a person that actually may take away the titles from Mr. Josh Taylor at that 140-pound division, it probably would be Mr. Montana Love. I think that he's better than Regis Prograis. I think he's better than Jose Ramirez. And let me tell you what, if Teofimo Lopez's first fight at 140, if he is planning to face Montana Love in an immediate fight, I would rethink that. Montana Love is a person that not only is he faster than Teofimo, he's more defensively responsible. Montana Love, to be quite honest with you, at least just looking at Teofimo's last performance, I don't think Montana Love would be a very good matchup for him. To be quite honest with you, this is actually my opinion. I'm not sure if Teofimo Lopez would even last the whole entire fight against Montana Love if he were to face him next. I've seen certain comments in this comment section saying that would be a 50-50 fight. I don't think that would be a 50-50 fight at all. I think Montana Love, I would have to favor him at least 60-40. I'd give Teofimo Lopez a chance. He has, great power, and, he can certainly sharpen up his skills. Try to, get back to the point where he used to be. But I don't know if that's a good fight choice. In fact, to be quite honest with you, taking on Montana Love next, that's a that's a good way to end up like another Andy Ruiz Jr. or Jermaine Taylor. I won't say Andy Ruiz Jr. quite yet because Andy Ruiz only has a couple losses in his career and he still has very high potential. But that's another way to end up like another Jermaine Taylor. When first he got knocked out, I believe, by Kelly Pavlik, then later on Carl Frost, then later on a couple of others. So we'll see what happens.
5'8" with 69.5-inch arm reach as well. Okay, Teofimo Lopez, we know, is coming off of a shocking upset loss to now newly crowned unified lightweight world champion Australian star boxer.
Listen, once again, a certain amount of people, like channels I reviewed, they said, "Oh, well, it wasn't shocking to me," because these guys don't know shit about boxing. Well, listen, at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's like this. I do think that George Kambosos versus Teofimo Lopez, I think that it was an upset. I just don't think overall that it was a massive upset. Because George Kambosos, like I said, I think he was like, a 13 or 14 to 1 underdog. In my opinion, George Kambosos, I probably would have ranked him around a 6 or 7 to 1 underdog, which is still pretty big. But at the end of the day, I can't say that I was shell-shocked because, like I said, Teofimo had not fought in a year. And on top of that, when it came down to it, it looked like things were starting to get to his head a little bit. And George Kambosos is a decently skilled fighter. He's a person that you have to watch out for. So like I said, Teofimo Lopez, I am not super shocked or super surprised that he ended up losing that fight against George Kambosos.
George Kambosos Jr., who is now 20 wins, no losses, no draws, 10 wins by way of knockout, 28 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 69 and a 70-inch arm reach. With that said, Teofimo lost a split decision to George Kambosos Jr. after he was dropped in the first round. There was a whole drawn-out saga between Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez leading up into the fight, but in the first round he was dropped. He got up. He was only looking for one punch. He seemed to be very one-dimensional, no game plan, just looking to get George Kambosos Jr. out of the
I agree. He looked like Deontay Wilder in there.
ring, knock him out. He completely...
And that's not me trying to throw shots at Deontay Wilder. It just is what it is. Because Deontay Wilder, just like George Foreman back in the day, he had a, that plan A was very, very dangerous if he could hit you because he has that A-grade power. But get past that plan, plan A, you don't have much else.
Estimated George Kambosos Jr. He completely himself was not prepared physically. He stated that it was reported that he had suffered a major esophagus injury, which saw him not be able to compete to the level of his natural abilities. And so with that said,
Yes, Teofimo Lopez said that, and I don't want to hear that shit. Just like I did not want to hear the Vasyl Lomachenko shoulder excuse. I don't want to hear anything about that. I didn't hear anything going about it into the fight. I don't want to hear anything about going after. Just is what it is. Because at the end of the day, ain't no damn esophagus injury in my opinion. First of all, if you would have had an esophagus injury, I've seen, fights stopped because of an esophagus injury or something of a sort. Maybe he's saying that he suffered it, during the fight. You look bad from round one. It just is what it is.
He lost his belts, he lost his titles in his first title defense after defeating former two-time Olympic gold medalist, Ukrainian superstar boxer who was 3-division world champion and former unified lightweight world champion in Vasyl Lomachenko. Teofimo Lopez shocked the world, not to me because I picked Teofimo Lopez to beat Vasyl Lomachenko, but he shocked the world. He was the
Well, what I'll say is this. I picked Vasyl Lomachenko to win by decision, but I was not completely shocked that Teofimo Lopez won that fight because that was a 50-50 fight. It could have went either way. Just like Floyd Mayweather Jr. recently said about Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. I picked Anthony Joshua to win the fight just like a lot of people did, but at the end of the day, was I super shocked and basically was my jaw dropped to the floor that Alexander Usyk won that fight? No, because I knew heading into that fight he was a more skilled fighter, but I was wondering how he'd be able to handle the power and the size of Anthony Joshua, and he handled it very well.
Dog, and he won a unanimous decision over Vasyl Lomachenko, whereas he lost a split decision to George Kambosos Jr. Okay, he didn't lose a a unanimous decision to George Kambosos. He lost a split decision. So with that said, Teofimo Lopez, his father, trainer, manager Teofimo Lopez Sr., they stated that Teofimo Lopez struggled to make 135. He can no longer do it. They shouldn't have attempted to do it. George Kambosos was their IBF mandatory challenger, and that they should have moved up in weight from the beginning after the Lomachenko fight and after the long layoff and after the postponements of the George Kambosos Jr. fight. If you don't know, George Kambosos was his IBF mandatory challenger, International Boxing Federation, the IBF title, and according to legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO and promoter Bob Arum, who promotes Teofimo Lopez and Teofimo Lopez fights on ESPN Network, that he wasn't forced into this fight with George Kambosos Jr. He chose to go into this fight with George Kambosos Jr. As Bob Arum stated that he felt George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez, they colluded to get as much money as possible, not come to an agreement as the mandatory challenger, and let it go to a purse bid, which it did. It went to a purse bid. Bob Arum, he was never high on George Kambosos Jr. He doesn't hold him in high regard, and he never thought that he was a competitive fight for Teofimo Lopez. How wrong he was, but maybe Teofimo.
I thought George Kambosos would be somewhat of a competitive fight. I just thought that Teofimo Lopez was going to pull out at the end of the day because, like I said, I thought that Teofimo Lopez, I thought that basically what he was a better version of George Kambosos. So I thought at the end of the day that he was going to have a little bit too much power, and I thought that eventually he was going to catch him with something and knock George Kambosos out. And he nearly did it, I believe in one of the latter rounds, but Teofimo, he fought so damn stupid in that fight when it came down to it. His hands were down the majority of the time. He he had no plan B, no plan C, nothing. No second game plan. Was one of the dumbest performances that I think I've ever seen a boxer have overall. It wasn't even necessarily like, I just thought, wow, Teofimo got exposed. There were certain rounds where I thought, Teofimo certainly has more problems than, what maybe was exposed to the public before. But Teofimo has never, in my opinion, he's never been like a Floyd Mayweather with his head movement or with his feet. Those, in my opinion, have always been a little bit of problems with him. But the thing is about Teofimo Lopez is that I think he could have performed better against that of a George Kambosos. He just didn't. I think he was too focused on the knockout. And I think once he started throwing certain combinations, I think that Teofimo Lopez, he was getting frustrated. And I just think all in all that he emotionally got out of the fight.
Lopez himself did.
Or he let George Kambosos get the better of him. And in my opinion, when it came down to it, Teofimo, he just never brought himself together and came up with a better game plan.
I think he was a competitive fight. That's why he overlooked him. And so with that said, it went to a purse bid.
I agree as well. I think all in all that Teofimo and Bob Arum, I think that they both overlooked George Kambosos. And I think that was a big part of the reason why he ended up losing this fight.
Which Bob Arum didn't feel like it was a high-profile fight and that it was worthy of paying big money. So he bid $2.3 million. He was outbid by Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn, and DAZN. They bid $3.2 million. But whopping and shockingly, Triller came out of nowhere and they bid a $6 million bid. Blew everybody out the water as far as their purse offerings, right? But Triller, they dropped the ball. They're not. Matchroom and DAZN are in the sport of boxing. Triller is in the entertainment business. So Triller, is new to the sport of boxing and trying to promote fights and things of that nature, right? And so with that said, the fight was initially scheduled to take place June 4th, I believe, June 5th, in Miami, Florida, at the Hard Rock Cafe. But what took place was unforeseen, legendary, retired Hall of Famer, iconic superstar boxer Floyd Money Mayweather decided to come back and do an exhibition bout with YouTube sensation Logan Paul, which saw them attempt to push the fight back because that means they would have fought on Saturday. Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos on Saturday, and Floyd Mayweather would have been fighting on Sunday in Miami as well. So that would have gave the people, it put the people in a position where they would have had to make a choice. Are they going to go to the Floyd Mayweather fight, support Floyd Mayweather, or are they going to support Teofimo Lopez as well? You have a YouTube sensation as mega in Logan Paul, and then you have a Hall of Fame and an icon in Floyd Mayweather, who's the biggest draw in boxing history. Well, common sense tells you that the mass majority of people are going to flock to Floyd Mayweather. So they decided to change the date from June 5th to to June Mexican, excuse me, to Juneteenth weekend, the 19th, the weekend of the 19th, Juneteenth weekend. And then it was reported that Teofimo Lopez tested positive for C-19, and it had to be postponed again. So they'll continue saga, which sort of fight continue to be postponed, and then George Kambosos and Trill.
Let me also say this, because I remember watching Dante's Boxing Nation when both Tyson Fury and Teofimo Lopez, when they tested positive for COVID-19, and he was saying the get out of jail free card because they tested positive for COVID-19, and there's no way that they can have COVID-19 because apparently they were already vaccinated. There's many people overall, out here that are vaccinated and they still can catch the COVID-19 virus. Just because you're vaccinated overall does not mean that you cannot catch the virus. Apparently, all of what it's supposed to do, like what a vaccine does, is, lessen the symptoms overall. It just is what it is. So there's plenty of people out here that they may have the vaccine and they still get it. It just is what it is.
But they asked Teofimo Lopez to go over to, Australia and stage the fight. He refused that till it got to the point where Triller just always dropped out. So George Kambosos Jr. he stayed ready. He stayed focused. Teofimo Lopez reportedly gained weight. He had a problem making 135, and like his father said, they should have just done away with it altogether and moved up to junior welterweight 140, 5 pounds north. Okay, and they took the fight anyway, and the rest is history. We know the outcome. He lost. So with that said, now obviously that fight was on the zone because Triller fell out, and Eddie Hearn went to the next highest bidder, which was Eddie Hearn matchroom in the zone. So Eddie Hearn paid the purse for Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos Jr. fight, and then now Eddie Hearn he's willing to put up the big money for Teofimo Lopez debut at the junior welterweight division against Montana Too Pretty Love, okay, who in his last fight he missed weight, but nonetheless.
I would rethink that move if I were the Teofimo Lopez corner. I don't know if they know how big of a fight that is. Montana Love is no joke, man. that dude is no goddamn joke. If Teofimo Lopez fights Montana Love next, I don't see how he wins that fight. I don't even know if the best version of Teofimo Lopez would be Montana Love, to be quite honest with you. If the Teofimo Lopez that showed up last fight shows up in this fight, I think that he'll probably be prepared better. But just taking a look at Teofimo Lopez in that last fight, he just doesn't have the footwork overall of a Montana Love. In my opinion, he don't have the defensive responsibility. I think Montana Love is a little bit too powerful, and I think that he's a little bit too speedy, and I think that he's a little bit too good for Teofimo Lopez. But you never know. We'll see what happens. Personally, in my opinion, I would predict Montana Love to win that fight.
That was on the Devin Haney undercard. He missed weight, but he stated that he could easily make 140, and this would be a good fight.
Like I'll say this, there was a bunch of people that predicted that Devin Haney would defeat Teofimo Lopez, and I think that was very, very possible. I think Montana Love is more talented than that of a Devin Haney. When I take a look at Montana Love, that dude looks dangerous. That dude, all in all, he looks like a very, 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 very talented fighter. I really like watching Montana Love. He's a person that, he's a fighter that is very, very interesting to watch. Very, very interesting to watch.
A welcoming fight for Teofimo Lopez. Montana Love is only 17 fights. It's not like he's a well-experienced junior welterweight, a world champion. So Teofimo Lopez is also coming off of what they say could have been career-threatening esophagus injury. So to fight Montana Too Pretty Love is somebody who is is not a massive draw. He's not a world champion. And it's a way for Teofimo Lopez to get his feet wet and get acclimated to.
In my opinion, this is the complete wrong fight for Teofimo Lopez. This is a person that could very potentially beat you. He's not an extremely big draw, even though he is an up-and-coming star somewhat. But I don't think that this is a good fight. I think that maybe a good fight would be Jose Pedraza. I think that another good fight would be, who the hell is that one dude? Jose Zepeda. Jose Zepeda. In my opinion, Jose Zepeda would be a great fight next. He's a person that has a little bit of a name at 140. He's a decent fighter, not really an A-grade fighter. But that's someone, all in all, he's a Mexican fighter, so he'll have a little bit of that fan base behind him. It will be a big fight between two Latino fighters. And when it comes down, I think that would be a great fight to take next. Montana Love, that is not a fight that if you're Teofimo Lopez's corner, in my opinion, that's not a fight that you really want to take, at least if you're a person in Teofimo's management team, and all in all, you're trying to protect your asset. But, hey, that's up to them.
The junior welterweight division. Now, obviously, prior to losing to George Kambosos Jr. and prior to losing his titles, he was campaigning to face off against undefeated, undisputed junior welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer Josh Taylor. He stated he wanted to have, two undisputed champions go at it. But Josh Taylor, he stated that Teofimo Lopez is not undisputed. Teofimo Lopez is unified, and he needed to go through undefeated WBC lightweight world champion superstar boxer Devin the Dream Haney. Devin Haney officially become undisputed. And then Josh Taylor said that that's something that he would, consider. But Josh Taylor, he himself is looking to move up. He's looking to move up to the full welterweight limit and challenge and make himself the mandatory for undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO reigning welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Terrence Bud Crawford, who is widely considered by many to be the number one best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Okay, so Josh Taylor, he has a fight coming up February 26th against Jack Cottrell, who was his mandatory. Jack Cottrell took step-aside money so that Josh Taylor could fight Jose Ramirez for undisputed. So in his contract, he was not allowed to just vacate the belts and move up to welterweight. He had to give Jack Cottrell an opportunity to fight for the title since he agreed to take step-aside money. So with that said, Josh Taylor is highly favored to beat Jack Cottrell. Nonetheless, Jack Cottrell is undefeated. It's not a walk in the park. But it's a homecoming fight for Josh Taylor.
I'll have to take a look at Jack Cottrell, or whatever the hell his name is. I believe Jack is a British fighter. The majority of British fighters, and it's no offense against them. There's some great British fighters, like, I even think Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith, in my opinion, I even think that they were decently impressive, even though I wouldn't put them on, all-time great status or anything, but I thought that they were decent fighters. But the majority of British fighters that I see come out of Britain, I'm not super duper impressed with them. Josh Taylor is one of them rare fighters. Now, of course, I've had a certain amount of people tell me he's not British, he's Scottish. Well, Scotland, all in all, is a part of the UK. So it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I understand what they're saying. But, Josh Taylor, who I do count as British, or at least a part of the UK area, he certainly is one of the more talented UK fighters that come out of there. I would have to see how talented Jack is. I did not personally know how he was undefeated, but if I had to guess, just going into it, I would probably favor Josh Taylor, probably by knockout, but I would have to take a look at his highlights.
It's a big fight, but I expect Josh Taylor to win. But once he wins, he's going to vacate all the belts. So that gives Teofimo Lopez the opportunity to fight Montana Love for the vacant junior welterweight title. Okay, and it's it's meaningful fight at that point in time. But you're fighting somebody in Montana Love who's very slick, very fast, very athletic, very strong. But he's
I agree.
Not a big puncher. Okay.
Let me say this about Montana Love. His record does not show a whole lot of knockouts, but his last couple of fights, Montana Love can punch. If he hits Teofimo Lopez the right way, he will hurt him. No doubt about it. He will hurt him. It is what it is. So Teofimo really, really, really has to watch out in that fight. Montana Love, he almost kind of reminds me of a Jamel Charlo. Like Jamel Charlo in the early part of his career, he didn't seem to have that big of power in the biggest fights. He usually would coast to a decision. But when it came down to it, all in all, later on, that's when he really would show his power. Now, there's some people that would even allege maybe PEDs is a part of that. But who the hell knows when it comes down to, I've never seen him caught officially, so you never know. But at the end of the day, there's certain boxers that are like that. Maybe in the beginning of the career, they're maybe not as comfortable. They don't seem to have as much power. But Montana Love, within his past couple fights, let me tell you what, he has sneaky power. Like I said, he don't have A-grade power, but he can hurt you.
Montana Love is only 9 knockouts in 17 fights, so he's not a big puncher, but he does possess knockout power, as we've seen him knock out some of his last few opponents. So he does have respective power. But this is an opportunity for, you know, um, Teofimo Lopez to, get back on his feet. Now we know Bob Arum, he wants Teofimo Lopez when he goes up to 140 to face Jose Pedraza. That's who Bob Arum wants to see Teofimo Lopez face off against in his.
And I think that that would be the smart idea because Jose Pedraza is a fighter that, he's probably about a B minus fighter when it comes down to it. He's somewhat handleable. He's a fighter that, if you're a talent like a Teofimo Lopez, it's a tough fight because Jose Pedraza does have some boxing ability, but he's not someone that is usually going to be a super duper huge threat. Montana Love, if Teofimo steps into that next fight, that could be a possible career ruiner. But we'll see what happens.
First fight at junior welterweight, and we know that Bob Arum, he is the promoter, right, and he controls the outcome, what takes place next for Teofimo Lopez. But Teofimo Lopez and his father, they're not they're not guys who just go quietly. They're going to let it be known what they want to do. They're not just going to be dictated and directed in what direction they go. So with that said, they're not just going to let Bob Arum dictate who they fight, when they fight, and how they fight. Okay, and so with that said, Montana Love and Teofimo Lopez represents a big money fight, but nonetheless, that means that Bob Arum was going to have to do business with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and DAZN, and that's not something Bob Arum likes to do. Okay, so Bob Arum is going to be reluctant to do that, and he's going to want to tell Teofimo Lopez what direction to go in. He's going to tell him, take the fight with Jose Pedraza. Now, Jose Pedraza, he has a fight coming up with Jose Ramirez, okay, which is interesting, February 5th. So he has to get past Jose Ramirez, which is a fight where
I highly doubt that Jose Pedraza will get past Jose Ramirez. I just don't see it. Jose Pedraza, he is a feisty boxer. He is a person that can give you a little bit of problems. He has even caused a couple of upsets, like when he fought Raimundo Beltran, I believe, and a couple of other fighters. He's a decent fighter, but I just I don't know if Jose Ramirez. Excuse me. I don't know if Jose Pedraza. I don't know if overall he's going to be able to handle the power of that of a Jose Ramirez. But we'll see.
Jose Ramirez is going to be the favorite. Jose Ramirez is the former unified welterweight world champion. Jose Pedraza is 29 wins, 3 losses, no draws, 14 wins by knockout. He was knocked out himself. 32 years of age, 5'8" with a 70-inch arm reach. He's also a Puerto Rican fighter. So, that's a big fight for Teofimo Lopez. But Jose Ramirez is 26 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 17 wins by way of knockout, 29 years of age, 5'10" with a 72-inch arm reach, okay? And again, he's coming off of the loss to Josh Taylor in an undisputed showdown, which he was dropped a few times, and he was clearly lost the fight. But Jose Pedraza is no walk in the park, so Bob Arum would love Teofimo Lopez to fight the winner of this fight in his comeback fight. But Montana Love, in my opinion, is a better option for Teofimo Lopez. It's a more winnable fight for Teofimo Lopez. Now, if Jose...
A more winnable fight than who? Jose Pedraza or Jose Ramirez? I'm not necessarily sure about that. Let me say this. If we're just talking about Jose Pedraza, Jose Ramirez, or Montana Love, let me say this. I don't think that Teofimo Lopez, I don't think that the Montana Love fight is a more winnable fight at all. I've seen Montana Love box. That kid can fight. That kid is very slick, very speedy, underrated power, decent feet. Teofimo Lopez, in my opinion, if I were him, I would not take that fight next, at least not at the current moment in time. And he may be a little bit bigger overall than what we think because Montana Love, he did miss weight last time in his fight, meaning what? His stature in terms of weight could be a little bit bigger than what we naturally think. So, like I said, his power, a lot of people take a look at his power, they take a look at his record and say, wow, this dude is not super duper powerful, but he has that surprising power, like I said. It's not like he's some Paulie Malignaggi. This dude can punch. He's knocked out his last few opponents.
Pedraza beats Jose Ramirez. I'm hard-pressed to see Teofimo Lopez beat Jose Pedraza at this point. I think that Jose Ramirez, and if he wins, he's very big, 5'10", 72-inch arm reach. Teofimo Lopez needs a more winnable fight, in my opinion. Montana Love is a better fight for him, but he's a very slick.
In my opinion, if I were to start off Teofimo Lopez, especially if I was going to throw him to the Wolves immediately or at least to some of the top contenders, I would have either picked a Mario Barrios or I would have picked a Jose Zepeda. One of those two. But Mario Barrios, of course, his next fight, he's going up against Keith Thurman. In my opinion, the best fight for Teofimo Lopez, it would be a Jose Zepeda. Because I could get you possibly in a title contention because Jose Zepeda is one of the top 5 contenders there. On top of that, Jose Zepeda, he's decent. He's decently powerful, so it's a good first fight to get adjusted, in my opinion, to the power of the 140 pounders, such as a Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, Montana Love, Regis Prograis, yada 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 yada. And on top of that, Jose Zepeda, even though he's decent, he's not really someone with A-grade boxing skills. In my opinion, that would be the perfect matchup for Teofimo Lopez at 140. Montana Love is an extremely dangerous fight.
Counterpunch, pure boxer, but and that could prove to be a serious problem for Teofimo Lopez as well. The movement, because we saw George Kambosos Jr.'s movement, his boxing ability, and his quick feet give Teofimo Lopez tons and tons of problems. Now, I don't know if that was because of the injury or it was just the stylistic matchup that was bad for him. So we have to see how that plays out. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out for Teofimo Lopez coming back. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section, let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah.
But anyways, that's really about it for this video. But I thought that was particularly interesting. We will see where Teofimo Lopez goes from here. And like I said, will Teofimo Lopez overall, will he be one of the great fighters of this generation? Or is he going to be another Andy Ruiz Jr. or Jermaine Taylor? It'll be very, very interesting. But anyways, we'll see overall what happens. Should be very, very interesting. And I'll talk to you all later.